Welcome back, homebodies. My name's Amy. Welcome to my channel, Catskill Mountain Homebodies. Well, I have the puppies today. Chipper is very hyper today. Scout's lying next to me. It's another sunny Saturday in the Catskill Mountains of New York. Joe has been working on the garden, and I'm going to give you a garden update, hopefully in this video. I've also made a lot of progress on my summer resolution, which is to finish a cross-stitch project that I started over a year ago and then put it down for a year. It's a gift for my niece, so I'm going to show you the update on my cross-stitch project. So that'll be fun. Joe's cleaning up the garden and stringing up more tomato plants. The corn is really tall. We've already gotten a lot of cilantro, and some of our tomatoes are turning red, so we should have some tomatoes soon from the garden. So that seems to be doing very well. But we're most excited for the corn because we've never grown corn, and that's going to be something new for us. So we'll see how the corn comes out. So I'm going to take you guys to the garden, maybe at the end of the video. I will show you my cross stitch though. We're going to do a recipe today for one of the soups that Joe and I love. It's the end of August, so we're getting closer to the fall season. And in the winter and the fall, I do make a lot of soups and stews. Sometimes I use my crock pot. We're not going to do crock pot today. I'm going to show you one of my favorite soups. It's also one of Joe's favorites. It is a chicken broth based soup with tortellini pasta and pancetta, which is an Italian type of bacon. And it's an easy recipe. There's a little bit of prep. You can make it after work. I've often made this soup after work. And you get, a nice big pot of soup. It feeds you for dinner. There'll be leftovers. I usually make garlic bread on the side, but tonight I'm going to be making Italian breadsticks, and I'm going to show you all my ingredients. But first, let me show you where the recipe comes from. In 2011, Joe got me this book. Let me show you. Casseroles, Slow Cookers, and Soups, and it was published in 2011. And I have made so many recipes from this little... It's kind of like a magazine cookbook from 2011. So let me show you the recipe. So this soup is called Holiday Tortellini Soup from Michelle Goggins in Greendale, Wisconsin. And so there are different people who have submitted recipes for soups in this little magazine. And this is the recipe that makes one of the most delicious soups. I am going to change it a little bit. It makes about 8 servings. And I am going to follow this recipe, but again, I'm going to take it a little bit, change it a little bit, that I'll show you. And here's the picture of it. Let me tell you a little something. This is Scout. He's coming to say hi. He's a sweet boy. He's so sweet. A little something about soups. So as you guys know from earlier videos, I have a college-age son named Julius. And growing up, I made soups a lot. I made soups and stews a lot. Partly because Joe and I were on a budget, and soups and stews go a long way. You can make a big pot of soup. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You have dinner or snacks for many days after that. Come on, Chipper. Come on. Come on, up. Pop some breadsticks in the oven, have some garlic bread. That's dinner. Joe and I love that dinner. It's, you have everything in the one pot. Meat, vegetables, pasta, or make carbs on the side. I mean, what could be better? It's so easy, especially for a working mom. I'd come home from work, whip up a soup. It's a very easy, great dinner on a weeknight. So growing up, Julius ate a lot of soups and stews. And now that he's an adult, he claims that soup is not dinner. He doesn't want soup for dinner. So when he's home, I still do make soup for dinner, but I don't make it as often as I used to when he was younger. Because he really doesn't view soup as dinner. But Joe and I love soup for dinner. So Julius is at college, and yes, we're going to be having soup for dinner on a Saturday night, and it's going to be delicious. And you know what? Soup is for dinner. I love soup for dinner. My husband loves soup for dinner. So that's what we're going to do. So if you're looking for an easy dinner to feed your whole family and even have some leftovers, this is a great recipe. So I'm going to get all the ingredients ready in a little while, and we're going to cook. And it's going to be delicious. It also makes your house smell delicious because you have to fry onions and garlic and the pancetta. Oh, it smells so good. So that's a delicious recipe we're going to make. It's one of my favorite dinners and one of my favorite soups. So we are going to be working on that in a little while. And that's what's going on today. So in a little while, I'm going to get all the ingredients prepped for the soup. And maybe if Joe cleans up the garden some, take you guys outside and we'll look at the garden. And I'm going to give you an update on the progress I've made on my cross stitch. So there's a lot to talk about today. All right, we're ready to cook a delicious tortellini pancetta soup. So let me show you what ingredients I've pulled. All right, so I have chopped up one small yellow onion. This onion is from my brother. My brother, Doug, and his wife, Gina, have a garden at their house in Connecticut. And we went there for a barbecue a few weeks ago, and they gave us a bag of some of their onions and garlic. So this is the onion courtesy of Doug and Gina. So thank you, Doug and Gina, for your onion and your garlic. So I have about 3 big, large cloves of garlic chopped here and 1 yellow onion. And it wasn't a big yellow onion, it was a small yellow onion that I chopped here. So that's going to be going in our soup. I have everything else pulled over here. So remember, this is our recipe. I'm going to be changing it a little bit and making it, I'm actually going to be making more of it, and I'm going to change a couple ingredients. All right, so Bowl and Basket is the ShopRite brand. ShopRite's a local grocery store in New York and New Jersey. It's Italian owned. It's an Italian family that owns ShopRite. And it was my grandmother's favorite grocery store. So I shop in ShopRite, like my grandmother. And I just bought the store brand chicken tortellini. Now, you can buy name brand chicken tortellini. You can do cheese tortellini if you like cheese tortellini. Pretty much any kind of tortellini will work in this recipe, but we like the chicken one for this recipe. So I'm going to make chicken tortellini. I have a can of petite diced tomatoes. This is a 14.5 ounce can. I have a big carton, a 48 ounce carton of chicken broth, low sodium, and an additional 32 ounce can of regular chicken broth. I have 4 ounces of diced pancetta. So pancetta is a Italian type of bacon. I have a few spices. I have some crushed rosemary, some basil, and some oregano. I have some garlic infused olive oil that I thought would be good for this soup. This is the Goya brand. And I'm going to be putting some local fresh baby spinach into the soup also. So that's the basic ingredients for the soup. This is a really quick recipe. It comes together so quickly. You could come home from work, throw a saucepan on the stove. You can make this soup very quickly, and it doesn't have to cook all day. It cooks fairly quickly. You put up some water for the pasta. I'm gonna make breadsticks with this on the side. You don't need breadsticks. This is literally a one-pot dinner. And it is a great weeknight dinner if you're working. As I mentioned, I teach, so this is a great meal for me to make when I get home from work. And I have made this soup many, many, many times. Oh, the dogs are playing. Chipper likes that ball, and it makes a lot of squeaky noises. And there's Scout. And they're saying hello. Say hello. So if you hear any squeaking in the background, it's Chipper and Scout. All right, let's start cooking. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put about 2 tablespoons of the olive oil into our sauce pot. All right, you're gonna heat up this olive oil on medium-high heat. So while we're waiting for that to heat up, we're gonna open up our pancetta. One other ingredient I didn't mention, in an earlier video, I made my grandmother's recipe for tomato sauce. I have that in my fridge. I am going to add about 14 ounces of my own homemade tomato sauce to this recipe. So I'm doing a 14-ounce can of diced petite tomatoes, and I'm adding 14 ounces of my own homemade tomato sauce into the soup, and that will give it a lot of flavor. So I'm adding about 2 cups of my own homemade sauce into this soup, in addition to the diced petite tomatoes. So that's a little something extra that I do with this soup. That's obviously not in the recipe, but I have a lot of sauce in my fridge, and I like to use my own sauce whenever I can for recipes like this soup. And it's gonna be delicious. So when this saucepan of olive oil is hot, and you will smell the olive oil when it is ready. It has to be ready to be sizzling. Then we are going to fry the pancetta. We're gonna put the pancetta in the hot oil and fry it up, cook it up. You gotta stir it, and it will get browned up. So we're gonna do that for about 5 minutes. So when the pancetta is crispy, and I'll show you that when it's done, we're gonna put in the onions, and we're gonna cook the onions with the pancetta. And when the onions are translucent and cooked, we are going to put the garlic in, and we're gonna stir that up for about a minute. Remember when I made tomato sauce, I told you that if you cook the garlic too long in oil, it gets a bitter taste. We don't want a bitter taste in this soup, so we're only gonna put the garlic in for about a minute, and then we're going to add the chicken broth, and we're gonna let that heat up. And again, this is a very quick recipe. It's gonna go real quick. I'm gonna start putting up a pot to cook the tortellini. So I'm gonna put a pot of water on the back burner, and we're gonna boil water for the tortellini. I've put a pot of salted water on the back burner, and that's going to boil for the pasta, for the tortellini pasta. I smell the olive oil. That means it's warm. I'm gonna add the pancetta now to the hot olive oil. So here's the pancetta. It just looks like chopped thick pieces of bacon. And I'm gonna put that into the hot oil. Be careful because it's gonna splatter. I'm gonna take my little bamboo spatula, and you're gonna stir the pancetta and the hot oil together. You want to cook this until the pancetta is crispy, like crispy bacon. You don't need to put anything else in here right now except the pancetta and the olive oil, and let that really cook up and crisp up. In this little bowl, I have mixed 1 teaspoon of basil, a half a teaspoon of crushed rosemary, and a half a teaspoon of dried oregano. So those are the spices, and that's all the spices you need for this soup, plus salt and pepper to taste. So I'm going to put this in with the broth. When I put the broth in, then I'll put the spices in after the pancetta and the onions and garlic are cooked. And see when it turns brown. So it's cooking, but it's not ready yet. You want to see it browned. You don't want to see the fat pieces white like this. You want to see it all turn crispy brown. It's going to be about 3 more minutes. All right, one of my favorite cooking songs, and I know it's not a conventional cooking song. Obviously, I can't put it in the video because it's of the copyright rules, but it's a song by George Harrison, one of the Beatles, and it's called My Sweet Lord. It's one of my favorite songs. It's an uplifting song. It does not matter what religion you are. Whatever religion you are, it's a fun song to listen to. It's uplifting, and it is one of my favorite kitchen cooking songs. So usually when I'm chopping vegetables or cooking in the kitchen, I'll ask Alexa, and now she's alert.
I don't know that one.
I don't either. Anyway, I'll ask Alexa to play my favorite song. One of my favorite songs. So if you are in your kitchen and you're looking for an uplifting song to chop vegetables to, try George Harrison's My Sweet Lord. It's a great song. And I am a huge Beatles fan. I've been a Beatles fan since I was a teenager. Pretty much in the 80s when I was going to high school, I didn't listen to contemporary music at all. I liked old music. So I liked 60s music. So I only listened to the Monkees, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Who, James Taylor. Those were my favorite artists. None of them were of the 80s. Now that I'm older, I like 80s music. But at the time, when I was 15, 16, I didn't really listen to 80s music. So George Harrison is one of my favorite artists. If you don't like George Harrison, I love John Lennon. John Lennon's solo music was great too. But yeah, so try My Sweet Lord by George Harrison as your background music for cooking and see if it uplifts you. All right, let's check our pancetta. Oh, that's looking much browner now. Not quite done because there's still white pieces, but you can tell how it is crisping up. So we're gonna let this keep going. It is gonna splatter. Be careful. And it's delicious. It already smells good. Wait till I put the onions and the garlic in. The kitchen is going to smell heavenly. So let's wait to do that. I have this Parmigiano Reggiano cheese from Italy that I'm going to grate over this soup. If you don't have that, you can use Romano or any grated cheese that you have to put on the soup when it's done. I have my spinach chopped up. My spinach is all chopped up. The soup is heating up nicely, but it's not boiling yet. Oh, it is boiling. Never mind. So the soup has started to boil. I'm going to let it boil for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to put the tomatoes and the sauce in it and let it come up to another boil. In the meantime, my water for my pasta is going to be boiling soon. And now, for the tortellini, I'm going to cook the tortellini in the water. I'm going to drain it when it's done. I'm not going to put it into my soup because I don't want the tortellini to get overcooked in the soup. I want the tortellini to be al dente or a little bit to the tooth. If you store or put your tortellini right in your soup, it will eventually get too soft. So I'm going to keep my tortellini separate from my soup. Even when I have leftovers, I'm going to store the tortellini separate from the soup. And when I make leftovers, I will just heat up the tortellini and the soup separately and put them together when I'm going to eat it. But I don't like mushy pasta in my soup, so I'm not going to ever put the tortellini until we're about to eat, and I'm going to put it in the bowl to eat. I'm not going to store the tortellini in the actual soup pan. So that's a little tip. If you don't like mushy pasta, keep your pasta separate from your soup and just combine it when you're going to eat it. So let's let the soup boil for a couple minutes, then we'll add the tomatoes. I don't want to waste any of this tomato sauce, so I'm going to put a little water in here, mix it together so I get all the tomato goodness into my soup. And here's what it looks like. We're going to let that come back up to a boil. And in the meantime, when the water for the pasta is boiling, I'm going to cook the pasta for about 7 minutes. The pasta water is boiling. I'm going to pop the pasta in, boil it for about 7 minutes. I'm going to add the spinach to the soup and wait for my pasta to be ready to be drained. Ready to spoon it out. Everything is done. The soup is done. Pasta's warm. And I made some breadsticks. So the way you plate it up is you put a little bit of tortellini in each bowl. Then you're going to spoon the soup over this. Okay, it's a big garden reveal update. A lot of progress has happened. Plants are growing. So let's go take a look at the garden that Joe has worked really hard on this year. all the progress in the garden. I'm really impressed with how well things are doing. We're gonna have lots of tomatoes, lots of peppers, appears lots of zucchini, and hopefully a lot of corn. So that's so exciting. So it's our first garden, and it's been a lot of work. Joe spent hours in there today cleaning out all the weeds, clearing it out, and cleaning it up. It looks beautiful, and it's going to hopefully give us a lot of fresh vegetables. I'm excited for the mini pumpkins, which are coming up. So now that we've looked at the garden update, we're going to go inside and look at my cross stitch update. As I mentioned in an earlier video, I made a summer resolution to finish a counting cross stitch project that I started a while ago. So I'll just give you a little reminder. This is what it's supposed to look like. All right, and here is what I have done. I'm working on the cow. The moon is totally complete now. And I have to write the word love, but all the other wording is done. When the cow is complete, I'm going to put some stars, and I have to put my niece's name and her birth date. And then I'm going to have this framed for her as probably a Christmas gift. So this was my summer resolution, to get this project finished, and I'm very proud of myself. I really have been sticking to it. Every night I cross stitch for an hour, and I really haven't missed any nights. If I do miss a night, then I stop in the afternoon and I will stitch for an hour. So it is coming along, and I'm very proud of myself. So thanks for joining me today. Hope you enjoy the soup. And hey, if you try any of my recipes, post a comment and let me know how it goes. I'm just curious how those recipes turn out for some viewers. So I'll see you in the next video.